Well, here's another fun one. Do you have any suggestions for the best way to study the roundness of a vase? You know, I've always got a suggestion. Well, the first thing you want to do if you're studying anything is to try to find a way to study it in 3 dimensions, in the real world, rather than just from a photograph. If you want to do a true study of a particular thing like the roundness of a vase, I thought it'd be simpler, though, instead of our trying to maneuver fake cameras and stuff, if I just find photographs to give you the idea of how to do that. The other thing to do, if you're studying something like this, or anything where you're studying an image of any kind, check your lighting. Be sure that you only have a single light source, and even make a part of the study moving the light source. So that's my first suggestion for studying roundness of a vase, or roundness or anything. It doesn't have to always be roundness. Be sure that you are studying from the real life. And so the next thing then is, where are you in relation to the thing itself? Because that was going to determine how its shapes are. For example, with a vase like this, the person who took the photograph was at the eye level of about right here. Now, how do I know that? Because this is straight across. If that person had been above the vase, slightly above the vase, then you would have this sort of, it's not really round, it's sort of elliptical, where it's curving under and curving over like that. If the person were a little bit more above the vase, this space between the back side and the front side of the lip of the vase is going to get wider. You see, like this. If the person is right on top of the vase, it's totally round. Where the opening of the vase is round, this is true. So you'll see it head on, as you probably know it to be, only when you're directly on top and looking down into it like that. And then you see the whole shape changes. Then you just see the outside from this viewpoint rather than the outside from this viewpoint. So you see how much the shape of anything will change depending on how you will see it. How you will see it will change depending on where you are. Are you above it? Are you below it? Are you to one side or the other side of it? Or are you right in front of it? All that matters. And then, of course, if you are below the vase, if you're looking up, you don't see the backside of the vase at all, or the opening of the vase at all. You see it curving upward like this. And this one is, the person is not quite as far below this vase. This person is about right here, the eye level. That's where it gets, you can't see it, but that's where it gets straight. The circles are curves that you're looking at, and if they're at your eye level, meaning like this, it'll be a straight line every time. And so you can just go by that principle and then kind of look at what's really going on there. And of course, this one, the person is even lower down from the vase, probably about way down here for it to begin to curve that much. So there's the first thing about studying roundness. Now, the next thing about studying roundness then is, what are the edges doing? And if it's a round vase, those edges are mirror images of each other, unless it has a bunch of other kind of dips and turns or whatever in the vase itself. So from my viewpoint, a pencil or a pen is one of the best instruments to use for studying shape of anything. Because when you're studying shape, you're studying what the edges of the shape are doing, or what you see those edges doing, not necessarily what they're doing, but what you see them doing according to where you are. So what's happening right here, what's going on right there, actually what's going on there is you just have a straight line. Do you see that? Now, if you weren't watching, if you weren't paying attention to that, your brain would tell you you have a curve, and you would make that curved even though it's not curved, or you're not seeing it curved. So always look for what it's doing. And when I say what it's doing, what do you see it doing? Is it going straight across? Is it tilting up like that? Or is it tilting down like this? Is it tilting out like this? Or tilting in like that? So look for those things. And then the next thing, when you're looking at something that is the same, a mirror where the sides are same, a mirror image of each other, that what we'd call perfectly rounded shape like that. One of the best ways to do that is not to just do one side and then do the other, but do the edges as you see them before the turning starts. And here's a good way to do that. So if you just look at that edge, you see this at the edge is just going down a little bit like that. And if you look at this edge, you see that it's going down just a little bit like that. I made that tilted, I didn't mean to. Now, then what do you see happening here? If you see that turning like that, just do a portion of it where it turns here, and then when it starts going straight like that, wait about that. Don't try to go all the way around it. And the reason for that is that you'll be able to get it more parallel, more of an image of each side if you do a portion at a time. So then if you go on the other side, and you can then do the same thing, and maybe just sort of have that feeling of what is that doing, and you then can come closer to getting those more mirror images of each other. And then you can do the bottom side, or where it starts at the center and goes to the bottom like that. And one way to do it, if you have trouble with that, is to do what you saw me do, in which we have quick tip for. It's called phantom drawing, where you would, in the air, you would just look at this and you would let your pencil follow it in the air. If you were working with that thing in the real, in the three-dimensional, you'd hold the pencil like this and you line it with your eye and just move the pencil like that. Just move it like that, right along the edge, and you'll feel how it's going. Then you'll be able to do it. So see, if I'm doing it like that, I can then get that edge more perpendicular to, well, let's do it this way, this edge. Then do that one, and then do this one. Now at the bottom has a very, very slight curve, but not very much, because of the eye level of the viewer, and also how close the viewer is to that. And so we then would make that just as we see it like that, just a very, very slight curve on it. So that's getting the shape, or that's studying the shape. And there's nothing wrong with allowing yourself to do that gesturally. In fact, if you do it gesturally, you can get it closer. So there's the first thing. Now that's studying only the shape. But let me go one step further and say about studying why you see this vase feeling rounded. It is partially the shape, but it's also the way the light is shining on the shape. You will need 2 skills with your pencil in order to do that. One skill that you'll need is to be able to work with your pencil sort of on the side like this, and be able to make an area that is the same value. See what I'm doing here? Where you're overlapping back and forth, but you're keeping the same value. And that is working with just this part of the pencil shaft. You're not working all the way like this, and you're not working like that, but you're allowing just a portion of the pencil's shaft to cover the surface, sort of like that, and you can work it back and forth. But if you then control the amount of pressure you put on the pencil, you can keep that the same value. So that's one skill. And then another skill you need is to be able to do a gradation, because you always see a gradation on roundness. And so to do the gradation, let's come on this side. Oh, where can I do this? I think I'll come up here and do it. Where you can You start very light like this, and what you are aiming for is get it gradually darker as you go down. And I'll try to do that very, very quick for you. You want to be able to create a gradual change in value. You see, where you gradually, you don't want to see any gaps in here at all. And that takes a little bit of practice. It takes doing several of these sorts of gradation exercises with the pencil, where you gradually change it from one value to the other. And it doesn't hurt to do an exercise like that. And you see, as I'm coming down, putting a little bit more pressure, it doesn't hurt to do an exercise like that where you're going from the darkest dark your pencil will make to the lightest light your pencil will make. And you now see I'm gradating backwards now to get that smooth, because I don't want to see a gap between where I'm making it the lightest and where I'm making it the darkest. Now you can see here that the shadow part of this vase is about the same value. Maybe it varies a little bit, but you can see that that gradation goes all the way across. You can't see where the shadow portion of the vase ends and where the light portion of the vase begins. You can see that a little bit right here, but if you just gradate like I did this, if you just gradate all the way across the vase like that, where you're using this skill, then you'll be able to create that roundness. Now, in order to gradate that, if you then would move your pencil, and I hope I'm not in the camera's way, this is going to be a little tricky to show you because the shadow's on this side, so I'll try to stay out of the camera view. Just do a portion here for you. Allow the pencil, allow your hand to move the pencil along the sides of the vase like you see it here. And it always works better if you start lighter than you see it and build that gradation gradually. And I'll just try to do just a portion of that here. This not anything as dark as that is yet, see? But if you would do that gradually, and I'm just going to stick to the top part of it, I think. Actually, it gets darker right down in here. But if you allow the pencil to move with that shape, way you see the shape moving, you'll be able to do that. And then if you are studying the degree of darkness, you see right up here it gets darker. And so I would move that like that. That's studying that degree of darkness that I see right there. And I see that degree of darkness. Now I haven't made it as dark as I see it yet, but I'm moving it just very gradually. And now I'm lifting up on the pressure, lifting up on the pressure, lifting up on the pressure. Now I go up here and I go down with pressure. And I'm going to do up and down like I see the neck there. Up and down, up and down. Let's see, it's getting darker, darker, darker. And getting close to as dark as I see it. Oops, I slipped outside the edge that time. It doesn't matter. I can take an eraser and pull that out if I need to. And you see, well, see what I'm doing? I'm following the edge there. Now I'm letting up on the shape. And that one, the dart does this. So I'll go with the shape of the shadow there. And I get up here and I do the same sort of thing. There's a little lip at the top there. So you can see now this is it's a slow process studying the shadows of something that's round like that and relatively large. It's a tedious and slow process. The important thing is if you control the degree of pressure you're putting on the pencil and control the way you're moving the pencil as you go, you'll be able to do that. It's a technique. It's a technique. It's not monkey see, monkey do. You know, I show you how and then you copy me. No, it's a matter of studying the value and using the technique I show you, which is not imitating me, but it's simply learning a technique. And see, that's picking up something that's underneath there, but that's all right. Now I'm going to let this gradate very, very gradually, very gradually, and get less pressure, less pressure, less pressure. In fact, as it gets about right here, it begins to get a little bit lighter. You can see that. And so then I'm not going to try to do the whole thing as usual because it's too long. And sometimes I just felt something there that you'll feel. I felt a little gritty a little bit of a gritty side of the pencil. So when that happens, if you feel something like that, sometimes these drawing pencils will have a little bit of grit in them. And so if you just turn the pencil and kind of work yourself an area and work yourself a little flat area on the pencil like that, somewhere other than on the drawing itself, until it feels you don't feel that gritty anymore. Then you start that again. Now let me just gradually. Right, I'm going to move in a different direction here, kind of get that a little bit smoother because I see it smoother. And then gradually, 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 gradually. See how my hand's moving here? My wrist is moving. It's not just finger movement. My fingers are holding the pencil, but my wrist is moving. You know, this can be a fun exercise. If you don't get tedious and bogged down, what you have to do is to watch every mark and control the degree of pressure and see it as a study of where you're trying to discover what's happening there, not as trying to make it look like a vase. If you try to make it look like a vase, then you're going to struggle and you're not going to love what you do. But if you simply are looking for the degree of the value and getting that gradation to go smoothly from one value to another, and going back and forth like I'm doing here works fine. Now, if you're working with something like charcoal, you can make that happen quicker, but it's still a matter of pressure. It's a matter of how much pressure you're putting on the instrument you're working with. I'm just trying to get that gradually getting lighter. I feel that grit again. I'm going to change pencils. That one's got, there we go. And that's something else too. Sometimes it is a handy thing to have more than one pencil in hand so that you can work exercises like this without having to resharpen a pencil or have to deal with reshaping every time, that sort of thing. Now I'm going back. I'm going back now. I'm going to get a little darker, a little darker, and a little darker. So you can see it's a time-consuming thing, but it is something that it has a big payoff in it, because you then can realize that you actually can create the illusion of roundness on two-dimensional surface if you use the technique for doing that, and also if you pay attention to the shape that your eyes are seeing according to where you are. Be sure and view all of our quick tips. And while you're doing so, subscribe to the channel, click on the bell so you'll always get a notice when we produce a new quick tip, which is every week. And if you have a question, leave it in the comments section and we'll make a quick tip for you. Also, take a trip over to DianneMize.com where I have full-length lessons, downloads, DVDs, lots of other stuff there, some free stuff for you. And while you're there, you can subscribe to the newsletter, and that way you'll always be informed every time we do something new.